Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the concluding session of this two-day webinar on roads, winds, spices in the Western Indian Ocean, the memory and geopolitics of maritime heritage. For this session, we are delighted to have with us today Dr. Nomvuyo and Nokwe, Secretary General, Indian Ocean Rim Association. The program will begin with the remarks by Director General, Indian Council of World Affairs, Dr. TCA Raghavan, after which Dr. Nokwe, Secretary General, IORA, will deliver her concluding address. Without any further delay, may I now invite Director General Dr. TCA Raghavan to kindly deliver his remarks for the session. So.
Thank you. Am I audible?
Yes, sir. We can hear you and see you very well.
Thank you very much, Pragya. Good afternoon. Very nice to see so many participants at the concluding session of what has been a very stimulating set of discussions over the past 2 days. May I begin by thanking my colleague, Joint Secretary Nutan Mahajan, and all the others at the Indian Council of World Affairs who have worked very hard at putting together this conference, and then the challenge of moving from the physical to the virtual medium. I'm also very grateful to Professors Himanshu Prabhare and Professor Madhu Bhalla, both of whom really expanded our bandwidth in the discussions which went into organizing this conference. We are, of course, very grateful to Shri Raghavan Singh for his opening keynote address, and to our partners in this conference, the IGNCA led by Dr. Sachinanand Sinha. But let me most of all welcome Dr. Nomvuyo Nokwe to this session and thank her for her participation. I know, Your Excellency, you have been a very, very keen listener in all the sessions, and it is a matter of a great gratification and encouragement for all of us that you took so much interest in this conference. Dr. Nokwe's bio profile is already in the conference booklet, so I won't read all of it out, but I will say, for the benefit of those who have not gone through it, that she is a very distinguished diplomat from South Africa and has served as High Commissioner to Mauritius and Seychelles, and has been Secretary General of IORA since January 2018. Of course, as far as the Council is concerned, we recall with great warmth your visit to Delhi in December 2019 for the 6th Indian Ocean Dialogue, which was hosted by the Indian Council of World Affairs as the knowledge partner of the Ministry of External Affairs, Government of India. And in a sense, your participation and presence in this conference really brings together two major areas of focus of the Indian Council of World Affairs. And I do hope that this conference will lead to this interface, leading to very fruitful and positive results. The Indian Ocean Dialogue, which was held in December 2019, is an important track, 1.5 initiative of the IORA, and it encourages an open and free-flowing discussion by IORA member states to discuss a whole range of issues which confront the Indian Ocean region today. The 6th dialogue was held under the theme of Indo-Pacific, reimagining the Indian Ocean through an expanded geography. During the dialogue, there was also the meeting of the IORA expert group on academic science and technology cooperation, as also the 25th meeting of the Indian Ocean Rim Academic Group, where India has currently taken the chairmanship and ICWA has been given the responsibility of being the nodal agency for India's tenure as chairperson of the IORAG. So as I said, IORA and ICWA's work on the Indian Ocean in terms of maritime heritage with our partners in India seems to be coming together at the right time. And as I said, I hope this will have some fruitful results. I don't wish to summarize the entire proceedings of the conference, but listening to the whole range of speakers, certain keywords remained with me, and I would briefly summarize these as comprising four in particular, which are narratives, identities, roots, and sites. And if we put all these four together, we really come up with a aggregate which we can loosely call heritage. And of course, each of these keywords and also the term heritage has its own problematic and its own set of issues. But certainly this was one broad area on which different participants in one way or the other focused in their presentations. As I had said in the beginning, our aim in this conference was to make it as interdisciplinary as possible. So apart from historians and archaeologists, we also had international relations experts, naval officers, naval strategists, and naval analysts, as of course also economists, and Dr. Atri's presentation was a very useful one towards the end. But these four keywords really formed one set of issues which the conference focused on. The second was, and this was a kind of spine which ran through all the discussions, was in terms of where do we stand today on Project MOSM. And if we put these four keywords which I mentioned earlier and Project MOSM together, we then come up with what was referred to frequently as comprising transnational heritage, which really amounts to, in effect, studying connectivities. So my takeaway in terms of Project MOSM is that those behind it, those studying it, and those who are trying to take it forward see it as a bundle of relationships, not focused or not trying to privilege any one particular national narrative. So I think this idea of MOSM as a study of connectivity is a very important one. The second point which comes to my mind, and this again came across very strongly in many of the presentations, was how geopolitics, maritime connectivity, and cultural heritage are deeply interconnected. One theme which a number of speakers did mention, and it came across quite strongly in the questions which came from many of the participants and from the large audience. And I must say, I was very gratified at the extent of the people who were, the numbers of people who were watching this. And the figure I got yesterday was in the range of about 300, including all the different platforms, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. If you put it together, there was something like 300 to 350 viewers, which is quite nice to encounter. But one point which came across very strongly was how can maritime culture and heritage be popularized and made accessible to ordinary citizens? And I think this is really what we are all talking about in different ways. And it strikes me, just a few months ago, I did a drive down our west coast along the Konkan coast. And the Konkan coast really, if one spends a little time, is littered with sites which compress 2 millennium of history of India's relationship with the wider Indian Ocean. And there's one particular place which comes to mind, which brings all of this together and gives you a kind of cross-section of India's connection with the Western Indian Ocean, which is a small fishing town of called Janjira, which was once the site of a kingdom founded by African adventurers and African traders. And there is a wonderful island fortress just off the coast. And it was nice to see that the remnants of that kingdom continue well into the 20th century. till 1947 and the merger of the princely states. But how we tie this living heritage into our scholarship about older connectivities and older histories is really the key to any discussion about Project Mossam. I don't wish to take too much time because we are all very keen to hear the Secretary General of IORA. But briefly, where do we go from here? And this was really what this session was meant to focus on. I would begin by saying that speaking from the perspective of the Council, the Indian Council of World Affairs, our own expectations from this conference were modest. We will, of course, have a publication coming out. Perhaps there's a special journal, there's a special issue of the India Quarterly, which is going to come out devoted to Project Mossam and the proceedings of this conference. But our own expectations are modest, and it is essentially to strengthen the interface between scholars, policymakers, think tanks, and intergovernmental institutions such as IORA and UNESCO, which also frequently figured in all the discussions. So if we encourage a certain amount of joint research, joint publications, I think that is an important takeaway. The second point, which I thought was important, and many of the presentations referred to it, and I recall I heard with great interest what Professor Michael Jansen, I don't know whether he's here, but Professor Michael Jansen's, yes, nice to see you, Professor. I think it's important we collect data on historical exchanges in the field of both tangible and intangible maritime cultural heritage. And I think this idea of looking at knowledge pathways related to arts, philosophy, mathematics, geography, navigational and nautical sciences, I think this is important. And it's something which can be done, on which there is a vast amount of scholarship. A lot of the exercise is really bringing the scholars and the existing scholarship together and then packaging it in a form so that it is accessible to a wider audience beyond the academic. So I think that idea of looking at knowledge pathways is an important one. I think the most important point, and I'll conclude with this, and this is really addressed to my colleagues in the IGNCA, in the Ministry of Culture, in the Indian Council of Cultural Relations, and in the Ministry of External Affairs, as indeed to anyone who is going to work with Project Mossam and this idea of connectivity in the Indian Ocean further, is we should desist from trying to reinvent the wheel. There is a great deal of work which has already taken place, which is taking place, and we should try to see how our efforts can fit in with this existing body of scholarship and knowledge and bring it together so that it answers the new questions we are asking. I think UNESCO programs, especially this World Heritage Site mapping, is a very good program, and we should try to see how we can fit this idea of cultural roots or knowledge pathways into this larger framework of World Heritage Site nomination. And this is, of course, this supplements the existing work which is already ongoing at a national level on different aspects of World Heritage Site nomination, maintaining sites better, making scholarship more accessible to the lay public, and so on. But let me conclude with these remarks, and again thank the Secretary General very much for her presence here today, and say, Madam, that we look forward greatly, not just to your address, which of course we do, but also to continuing our partnership in a small way with the IORA. Thank you very much.
Secretary General, please unmute yourself.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Now to talk after Dr. Raghavan, I don't know what to say. I think mute it, mute yours. Director General, Indian Council of World Affairs. I wish to acknowledge Shri Dinesh Patnaik, His Excellency, Director General, Indian Council of Cultural Relations. Honorable Chairperson for the session. Just a bit, we're having an echo. Yeah. Distinguished delegates and participants, a very good afternoon to you or a good evening. On behalf of IORA Secretariat, may I extend our gratitude for this invitation to join this timely and commendable virtual webinar over 2 days on roads, winds, spices in the Western Indian Ocean, the memory and the geopolitics of maritime heritage. I remember on the sidelines of the IOD, Dr. Raghavan mentioned this, and I'm quite excited that it has come to fruition. It was supposed to be held here in Mauritius, but because of COVID, unfortunately, we now have to do it virtually. But thank you. May I also use this opportunity to extend a personal level my warmest thanks to the organizers, the Indian Council of World Affairs, for hosting these sessions on the proposed dialogues on past connectivity and future interactions. It is indeed an honor for myself and a privilege to present and to witness and to share the platform with such eminent professors, scholars, and the presentations that were done over the past few days. My gratitude also goes to Dr. T.C.A. Raghavan, Director General, Indian Council of World Affairs. In my opinion, the golden ancient maritime trade routes and cultural religious heritage which prospered in the Indian Ocean region can help IORA in understanding the current transboundary challenges as well as the commonly agreed way forward for the solutions of these issues. I'll just give you a brief background on IORA. The Indian Ocean Rim Association is a dynamic intergovernmental organization aimed at strengthening regional cooperation and sustainable development within the Indian Ocean region, comprising of 22 member states and 10 dialogue partners. And I wish to add that this idea of the Indian Ocean region originated, of course, in Delhi by no other than the iconic Tata Nelson Mandela, way in 1995. And then in 1997, we constituted the Indian Ocean Rim Association in Mauritius. So the headquarters are in Mauritius. So I'm talking from Mauritius right now. There are a couple of priority areas or focus areas, as we say, and one of them, and which is then topical, is the maritime safety and security. The Indian Ocean region faces many traditional, non-traditional safety and security challenges, including piracy, armed robberies at sea, terrorism, human trafficking, irregular movement of persons, drugs, trafficking, illicit trafficking in wildlife, trafficking of weapons, crimes in the fisheries sector, such as illegal, unreported, unregulated fishing, degradation of ocean health, unlawful exploitation of marine resources, and climate change, with its related repercussions on environmental security. Now, to look at what has been discussed and what is specific, tourism and cultural exchanges, it is often said that unforgettable journeys filled with life-changing experiences start in the Indian Ocean, bounded by Africa, the Middle East, Asia, Australia, and Indian Ocean Rim region prides itself with gorgeous beaches, magnificent turquoise waters, stunning islands, and breathtaking scenery, being frequently considered one of the most appealing marine destinations on Earth. But that's not all. In the Indian Ocean region is also home to melting pot of 2.5 billion beautiful, diverse people, 1/3 of the world's population of diverse origins, cultures, languages, and religions. One can see these influences at work throughout the realms of art, cuisine, music, dance, architecture, history, and more. The economic relevance of tourism for the region makes harnessing full potential essential for the advancement of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. Managed well, tourism can play a positive role in social, cultural, economic, and environmental development of the region, and as such represents a significant development opportunity for countries in the Indian Ocean region. On the other hand, unchecked tourism development can lead to damaging impacts of natural resources, consumption patterns, pollution, and social systems. The need for sustainable planning and management of this is imperative for countries in the region to maximize the benefits of positive and sustainable tourism sector. Now, in terms of IORA's approach to tourism and cultural exchanges, IORA member states are blessed with great diversity, as I've said, as well as assets. All are the basis of a successful, sustainable tourism industry. This industry is very important in meeting some of the relevant sustainable development goals in the region. And as you know, it will be Sustainable Development Goal SG 1, 2, 4, 5, and 8. Now, to get to the Indian Ocean prides itself as well, as I've said and mentioned, on the precious clear beaches. With reference to this, the IORA has developed tourism newsletter. So therefore, the Secretariat has received inputs from 6 countries, namely Australia, Iran, Mauritius, Seychelles, Singapore, Somalia. Subsequent editions will include segments such as the regional cuisine attractions, the discovery of arts and culture in the region, slice of life stories, the beautiful cities where IORA meetings are held, and many more exciting updates. We would also use this newsletter to keep readers posted on the work of the core group on these activities. So I urge you, as I've listened to all the wonderful speakers, that some of your articles could also be put in either the newsletter and also our famous Journal of the Indian Ocean Studies, because I think a lot of work has been expressed and passionately talked about during these sessions. And I'm glad that Dr. Raghavan says after this you'll be having a booklet, but we'd also want to have part of this into our own journal. Now, in terms of IORA promotes tourism and cultural exchanges by setting proposed policy directions for government corporations and providing platforms for dialogue and promoting tourism amongst member states, dialogue partners, and other international bodies. Now, back to the Jakarta Concord adopted by the IORA heads of state and government in March 2017, it commits into fostering tourism and cultural exchanges by increasing people-to-people interaction to promote regional economic growth, encouraging the sustainable development of community-based tourism and ecotourism. Now, in terms of the UNESCO World Heritage Sites, we can safely say that within the region, we have 158 World Heritage Sites out of UNESCO's 1,121 World Heritage Sites listed in UNESCO. Therefore, we are making up 14% of the total UNESCO World Heritage Sites. Presently, there are 2 marine World Heritage Sites which are located in the Indian Ocean region, namely Isimangaliso Wetland Park in South Africa, which was listed in 1999, and Aldabra Atoll in Seychelles, which was listed in 1982. Therefore, promoting cultural heritage and harnessing the economic potential of this heritage, including World Heritage properties and sites, will be a key area of what we can do going forward. cooperating and sharing experiences for the sustainable development of tourism, and augmenting regional connectivity by encouraging direct flights. Of course, unfortunately, right now, we're all in what we call COVID lockdown, but as soon as I think this is, unleashed and we can get back to the new normal, I hope then we will be then interacting more with direct flights and shipping services, including cruises. I think what happened is that we're supposed to have had a cruise from Delhi to Mumbai, but unfortunately that didn't happen because of the COVID. But we still have that dream to ensure that it happens. And then we also wish to encourage investment in requisite infrastructure. To achieve this, the IORA member states developed the IORA Action Plan 2017 to 2021, which includes a set of specific time-bound goals. Key wins for IORA so far: the establishment of a core group on tourism as a formal institutional mechanism of IORA, and an adoption of its work plan at the second IORA Tourism Ministers held on the 21st to the 23rd October in 2018 in Port Elizabeth, South Africa. The ministers' meeting and the establishment of the core group has injected new energy into boosting tourism, cooperation, and exchange in the region. The agreement to establish an IORA Tourism Resource Center and a website, which is still in progress. And then we'll also urge all the presenters, and I've seen all beautiful historical pictures, will be also encouraged to be also hosted on that website. We then launched in an IORA Nelson Mandela Be the Legacy program of young interns working in IORA Secretariat to gain work experiences to solidify the historical link that IORA has with the global icon Nelson Mandela. Then, as I said, publishing travel notes on IORA cities, hosting events and meetings, and then the launching of the IORA Secretariat Tourism newsletter to showcase IORA tourism offerings and update the public on the work and activities of the core group of tourism. Now, the interesting, and I'm glad there was this emphasis again on Project Mosam, that with reference to this Project Mosam, which is an Arabic word for Mosam, referring to seasons when boats can safely sail, the Project Mosam aims to rebuild maritime and economic connectivity with the 39 countries bordering the Indian Ocean. It is also aims to bring together historical and archaeological recently to a record to the diversity of economic, culture, and religious interaction between countries. It needs an international, as from my perspective, it needs an international and an interdisciplinary team of researchers, also to make it as a curriculum in schools, as our teachings are skewed to the West. Little is known about our linkages, and I'll urge that we foster that, especially that we have young population that needs to know more about our areas. The IORA Secretariat is in contact with the Indian Ocean Commission, based in Mauritius, to have a close collaboration and cooperation in the common areas of interest. In my opinion, ancient Indian Ocean and the trade routes, as well as the cultural connection, can be one area of interest. We should focus first to understand natural, cultural between member states of IORA. Since 2014, 2 ministerial meetings on tourism was hosted by IORA. And in that, I would say there were certain recommendations which were highlighted, and then I would just want that to be also considered. The Indian Ocean tourism and travel perspective, emerging markets, and networking to increase competitiveness and market promotion. Maximizing regional development through sustainable tourism, green tourism. Bridging the gap between tourism and aviation policies, air connectivity between the IORA member states. Developing cruise tourism in the Indian Ocean. After listening to these 2-day sessions from the scholars and experts related to the Maritime Museum, Maritime Archaeology, it is evident that there is a clear need of setting up a task force of experts of cultural heritage underlying social, scientists, and civil societies and NGOs to further charting our realistic program and projects, which provides an understanding of the Indian Ocean culture, people to people, contact to the historic times, as well as to learning from the past history, leading to the sustainable development goals, inclusive growth and shared prosperity in the Indian Ocean region, which is the objective of the present chair of IORA, the UAE. And I think I have covered most of the stuff that was supposed to be done within these sessions, but I think there is more. And I think we will leave that to the ongoing process to ensure that we keep the fires burning. As Dr. Raghavan, I know he's very passionate, and His Excellency Dr. Pandey, I'm so glad that he is also sitting at the helm and ensuring that we do deliver on these cultural needs that we need to be endeavoring and applying and ensuring that our region becomes number one in these areas. I thank you, thank you, Dr. Pragya Pandey. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Secretary General Dr. Nokwe, for your enriching remarks. As you very, since its inception, has provided a robust mechanism for maritime cooperation. It plays a very significant role in providing a platform, bringing together diverse set of countries and binding them in a notion of maritime community and a shared maritime space to collectively work towards a secure, stable, and a prosperous. The regional countries have invested enormous political and diplomatic capital in setting up the institution. India, as the founding member, continues to work closely with the IORA. As mentioned by Director General ICWA in his remarks, it was our pleasure to host you, Secretary General, during the Indian Ocean Dialogue, 6th Indian Ocean Dialogue in New Delhi in December 2019. Address this webinar. Your remarks provide important insights into the current thinking of the Indian Ocean Rim Association. Thank you so much. Now, it is my pleasure to present vote of thanks on behalf of the Indian Council of World Affairs and Indira Gandhi National Center for Arts. I would like to thank Director General, Indian Council of World Affairs,